Well, I got a site plan on here. He was trying to show on that projector. On the desktop.
So it's like a handout site plan? I mean, you know how to work this projector, right? We can do
I got
that
it
if you
set
want.
up.
If it's not, or do you want me to scan it in and try to get it up there?
Well, I got it on email.
Oh, you have it on email already.
I was gonna say I could forward it to you and you can put it on North Main Shared.
Yeah, just do that real quick.
Okay. North Main Shared.
Okay.
I don't know where she's gonna put it.
Okay. I'll just leave this.
Change it to date modified. A few minutes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm just gonna have you put it on the desktop.
Okay. Between zoning.
Okay, you got the keyboard.
Yeah. Do you want it?
I might just take the mouse.
Okay. All right.
I mean, after.
Okay. We just got to get the let's get the train rolling.
I'll give it to you.
How can I pull up my agenda? I'm just gonna do this without a copy of the agenda, I guess. Do it without a copy of. I was trying to pull up my email. I was trying to search my Outlook to pull up a past copy of the agenda. You got one. Never mind.
Presentation. Go back one. Scroll down.
Yeah, do it by name.
There we go. Presentation.
Keep going.
You did. You got
And then zoning at the bottom. And that's Neesmith project.
Just right click, copy. Go to desktop.
Paste. Okay.
Open it and minimize it. Just minimize it. That way we can drag that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Walk me through some of this.
All right, now you do your thing.
All right. I'm gonna minimize Mosley. Back up ODS. We do not have YouTube open, so we should be able to see it, hear it, and all that.
He want to be able to see it too. Did y'all test out the camera earlier?
Yes, pictures wide, room wide.
Does it let him see it? Does it let Ray see it?
I don't think
If
so.
you'll press that, he should be able to see it.
Start virtual.
Yep. Make it big. Let's see if it'll show up.
We text him and ask him if he's seen.
There we go. He's got it. Done. You don't have to ask him.
That camera, you can go to this
Converted, you can just volume it.
Going to call this meeting to order. It's now 5:30, and would like to thank each one of y'all for being here. And I see Grice Connect, and I'm not certain, WSAV, or WJCL, and is there any other media here? We thank each one of y'all for coming, and if you'll silence your cell phone, please. If it rings, if you go out in the corridor and answer it, then you can come back in. We'll now ask Commissioner Connor if he will give the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll stand, please.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the day that you've given us, Lord. Thank you for the rain that you sent upon the land, Lord. Thank you for the sunshine you back in it with. Lord, I ask you now, Lord, if you'll give the strength to the farmer's back to where he can make this crop good, to where this county can see your glory and your grace, Lord, as the crops develop and get older and mature and go into harvest. Lord, I ask you to protect the ones that's overseas, our men and women that's here at home, keeping us safe. Lord, I ask you to put your hedge of protection around them, take them back home to their families. Lord, I ask you to lead and guide us everything we do in this meeting, Lord. It be an emblem for you. In God's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now we'll have Ms. Mincy White call the roll for the commissioners.
I, Venus Mincy White, present as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman Roy Thompson.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Kurt Deal.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Jappy Stringer. Aye. Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Toby Connor.
Aye.
I've determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. Before we start tonight, Commissioner Mosley is not here in person, but he is here. He can see what's going on, hear what's going on, and he will be voting. So, I know we've all looked over the zoning agenda, and so I'd like to have a motion to approve the zoning agenda.
So, second.
Motion, second, discussion, hearing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Zoning agenda is approved. So we will now turn the meeting over to zoning director, James Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 1 tonight is a variance appeal. The appeal is from the decision that was given by the Planning and Zoning Commission in their regular May meeting, which Quality Home Development LLC, Rocky Sellers as agent, has applied for a variance to reduce a 40-foot front yard setback to a 30-foot setback. The property is located on 1421 Jordan Drive. It's lot 101 in Meadow Lake subdivision, in which Planning and Zoning Commission heard the request May 9th, and the request was denied by a 4-1 vote. So, let's see, where am I at here? All right. This is the general location of the property. It's just south of Statesboro, near the Georgia Southern Golf Course. This is the Meadow Lakes subdivision, again at the end of Jordan Drive. It's a corner lot, and the request to reduce the front yard setback stemmed from when the applicant built a single-family home on the lot. It went through a series of inspections, and the house, we thought the setbacks were met based on information provided to us, and then once the house was near completion, it was brought to our attention that the setbacks were in fact not met. It was about 10 feet off, and so really the only recourse that the applicant has is to seek a variance, in which going through this process, your decision again is based on the appeal for Planning and Zoning's recommendation, or not recommendation, but their decision. The other homes in the subdivision meet or exceed a 40-foot yard setback. There's, again, it's not necessarily that it's out of line with the other homes just because it's, on a corner lot, but this is the home, or the single-family home, that's, I guess, in waiting. It has not been issued a certificate of occupancy. So depending on, the outcome of tonight's meeting, I guess there would be either it stays as built, or part of the structure would have to be removed to meet that setback, the reduction of 10 foot to meet the setback. This is the access to the property. There's, that's how the homeowner, I guess, placed the home on the property. And then this is the view of essentially the front yard. The pavement, the edge is not very well defined, but hopefully, I know one or two of you had a chance to go visit the property, but with that, staff realizes that it's kind of a difficult situation for staff to provide any good remedy to this. I think it was a series of unfortunate mistakes or miscommunication, and so I don't know that staff necessarily has a recommendation. And then Planning and Zoning again recommended a denial by 4-1 vote. And so with that, unless y'all have any questions, I'll turn it over to, I believe Mr. Sellers has a representative to speak. Matt Matthews for the applicant.
Matthews, before you get started, I wanted to set the rules and regulations that we use here for any of our meetings. You will have 10 minutes. Both sides will have 10 minutes. And if you can save some of the time for rebuttal. And then if there's folks that are signed up to speak for, if you use all 10 minutes, then they will not get to speak. So, and that applies to any of these zoning matters. So, having said that, we'll use the clock over here, and you can proceed.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak on behalf of Quality Home Development and Mr. Sellers, who's the owner and operator of Quality Home Development. And as Mr. Pope noted, this really comes down to a miscommunication. That's why we're here. Mr. Sellers is seeking a variance to the setback requirement for this R25 zoning. And it's really a series of misunderstandings or miscommunications that eventually led to the house being substantially completed, and Mr. Sellers discovering that he's about 10 feet, actually 9.8 feet over that 40-foot setback. And in hindsight, Mr. Sellers recognizes that the misunderstanding falls on him, and he recognizes that he should have gotten a survey to have the corners marked before they got this far in the construction process. However, he misunderstood what was going on, and fully understands that the mistake is on him. After the setback issue was discovered, Mr. Sellers filed this application, and really it comes down to a question of what the impact that this has on the neighborhood in comparison to the impact that it's going to have on Mr. Sellers himself. When you look at the impact to the neighborhood, we're talking about a corner lot. It's on a double cul-de-sac. It's not in a long line or row of houses, so the fact that this is 10 feet closer to the road than the other houses may be doesn't look unsightly or affect the neighbors. It's not obstructing any views or causing any safety issues. Whereas if we look at the impact to Mr. Sellers and the applicant, we're talking about having to tear down or reconstruct the garage. And I think it's about 200 square feet of the garage that is over that setback line. So at the end of the day, that would be financially untenable for him. He would not be able to continue, and it's unlikely that he would have the funds available to complete the construction on the house. And at planning and zoning, there were some neighbors who were unhappy about it, and they spoke their piece, and I think there's some of them who are signed up to speak today. And I'll reserve too much comment on that for after they've had their chance to speak. But all I will say is that this is the issue in front of us right now is whether or not to grant the variance, a 10-foot variance to the setback requirements for this zoning designation. It's not about covenants. It's not about whether or not the neighbors like the house that was constructed. All of those issues, even whether it meets the setback requirements from the covenants, can be resolved, but this isn't the forum for resolving them. And because of that, we're not leaving those neighbors without a remedy. They have the ability to go to the courts if there really is a violation of the covenants and seek to enforce those covenants. And so with that, we'll leave it for them, and would like to reserve the rest of my time to speak later.
go with the. Okay. All right, then we'll save that amount of time. We'll go to the opposed.
Jerry Darcy.
I'll let my wife speak first, please.
Okay, Miss Georgianne Darcy.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Georgiana Darcy. I'm speaking to discuss my opposition to this build. I hope you did drive down that street, Jordan Drive. It is not a corner lot. I am also here to come with another solution. So I am going to read an email that hopefully you did receive from my neighbor, Jessica Hawken. Dear Bulloch County Commissioners, I'm writing to ask you to consider 2 points and also a request in reference to the variance request for the home building project located at 1421 Jordan Drive on the agenda for the July 2nd, 2024 meeting. My interest in this matter stems from the fact that our home is located on the lot adjacent to this build. The first point is regarding the fact that in Bulloch County Departmental Review I read online, it stated, quote, the impact of the variance is lessened due to the property being on a corner lot, end quote. This property is absolutely not on a corner lot. It is in fact a cul-de-sac. If this property was considered to be on a corner lot, he would in fact need 2 variances because it is significantly closer to his property line on the other side of his, quote, corner than he is on the front of the house. But alas, this is truly not a corner lot, so the impact is not, quote, lessened by this. The only other possible road that whomever wrote this report might be referring to is actually an unmaintained private drive that is privately owned and runs up the side of his property. And according to a conversation that I had with the builder, he was originally told by Bulloch County Inspector's Office he would not even be allowed to connect his driveway to this private drive because it is privately owned and not an actual street. Somehow that issue seems to have been dismissed because he has in fact built his home in such a way that the only access to his garage would be from this private drive. I'm not sure how the issue is considered resolved because I'm unaware of any resolution. The second point I would ask you to consider is that this builder has no intention of doing what he has been asked to do by the county. After he did not pass inspection for the setback, he was asked by the county to have the corners properly marked so it could be reevaluated. Properly marked would mean that a professional would come and assess where the property lines are actually located. Instead, the builder went out, put in marking stakes in the ground. He decided that they were located right where they needed to be, so he marked his own property lines and then called the county back to inspect them, misleading the county to where his actual property lines are located. When he finally called a professional surveyor out, which was when the house was nearly complete, he was more than 10 feet off in all directions. He had personally marked. That is why he's now requesting a zoning variance. In the last meeting where the zoning board denied his request, it was mentioned to him multiple times by several board members as well as the county officials that he needed to talk to us, the adjacent homeowners, to see if we could reach a compromise. All of us adjacent homeowners are absolutely willing to speak to him and reach a compromise that would be suitable to all of us. He has not followed the county's instruction. He's not reached out to any of us. In the Bulloch County Departmental Review I read online, it states that there are only 2 options, granting the variance or denying the variance and proceeding through the court system to remove a portion of the home. Neither of these 2 options are favorable to the adjacent homeowners. What I would like to request is that the commissioners should not decide this issue at the meeting on July 2nd. Please, they should instead push this decision to a future meeting, and in the meantime, ask the builder to pay for a professional mediator who can mediate this matter between us, the affected homeowners, and the builder so that we can come to an agreement that will be fair to all of us. I have no doubt that an agreement could be reached, and then the commissioners would be able to proceed in granting the variance at a future meeting after we, the adjacent homeowners and the builder, have come to an agreement that would be fair and equitable to the concerned parties, as well as removing the pressure from the commissioners to make a decision that will not be favorable either way. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I hope you will grant this request. And this was written by Jessica Hawken, and she's at 1417 Jordan Drive. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Jerry Darcy.
I have a plat here that I've done up. Can I give this to you all so y'all can look at it when I speak through it? I only did 5. I'm sorry about that. And the ones I just gave out is if we're going to consider this a corner lot, that's the way the setbacks are. I have 5 more here that if it's not a corner lot, that's what we're going to do. So what you're looking at here is a plat of 101 Meadow Lakes Plantation. Over there in the green, you'll see to the right, there's a little bit of wetlands they have on it. Located the house out here according to the property line that's supposed to be being used out here. And you'll see that it's 31 feet to the left front property line, and to the sideline that they're talking about, it's 19.14 feet to the property line. That's where its garage is. I don't know if y'all know, but most parking stalls that you have are 20 feet deep. So this means that a car cannot really be parked outside of this garage and not be on some other property. But you can see the orange where he had it marked out, laid out. We surveyed that in. And that's what I have here. This piece of property right here, it had wetlands on it. It had marginal soil for a septic tank. And there's more golf balls here than you could ever want to shake a stick at. There's at least a 50-gallon drum that comes off of this about every 2 months. And he slid it all the way up. And I don't think it was because he didn't know. I think it was intentional on that part there. But that's what I have there, and I want to know who says this is a corner lot? Where did that come from?
Well, it may be a terminology mistake, but is not in the, I mean, I don't know, that's just,
Okay, what this
I'll
lot
take
is,
responsibility.
this lot's the first lot, the drive, if you drive down Jordan Drive, you're looking at this little house the whole way. It is 20 feet closer than any other house that we have out here. Mr. Jimmy Carty built a fine subdivision. We have really nice houses. And this little house is too close and too low because the water that's gonna run in there is gonna be incredible. So I'm gonna say the rest of the time in case, but that should tell you everything you need to know about the property because he does not have enough room to put it in there. Thank y'all.
Okay, that was all that was signed up, so if you would use your rebuttal time.
Thank you. I think the use of the term corner lot is, as James pointed out, it's probably it's a difference in the usage of the term. Can we go back to that, the aerial view? It's not on a corner, it's in a corner. And I think this shows it very well. That it's not sitting on a corner like Mr. Darcy's lot, which is directly across the road from it, but instead it's sitting in the corner, which makes it, which is why I explained earlier that it's not in a row where you could see it hanging out further than all the other houses. It kind of stands alone from all the other houses in the neighborhood. So in order to put that aside, I don't think in terms of deciding what the setback should look like on the sides, other than the front, I don't think the term corner lot's gonna apply here. We're simply looking at it as being in a corner, and that's where that term came from. The fact that it's too low, or, and the setback on the left boundary, as we're looking at it here, just aren't an issue here. There's been no issue raised by the county, by the staff, and that's why we're only asking for a variance of the setback in the front. And I want to go back to explain in a little bit more detail about what happened with this initial survey, because there were some suggestions that Mr. Sellers misled the county, and that's simply not the case. I haven't heard Mr. Pope suggest that he felt as if they were misled, and it all came down to a mistake. And the initial inspection of the slab, there were some discussions about the setback and whether or not that was violated. There was a suggestion also made that a survey be performed, but Mr. Sellers went out and found what he believed to be the corners himself. And after finding what he believed to be the corners, he had the county come back out and look at it a second time. And that's why they moved forward with construction and got to the point that it's at now, before discovering that the setback was truly an issue. I'm not sure where the survey that you're looking at came from. And I'm not sure how those distances were measured. Mr. Darcy certainly hasn't gotten permission from my client to come onto the property and perform a survey. So I can't really comment on that without seeing it. And then finally, the last thing I'll mention is that I feel pretty strongly that Mr. Sellers is happy to talk with his neighbors about how to resolve this problem. But the reason that he didn't reach out to them after the planning and zoning meeting was because in that meeting, Mr. Darcy said, and I'm quoting here, so let me get back to my notes so I don't misquote. He said, "The best thing that can happen is to just push the whole thing down." And so that doesn't really set the tone for coming up with a solution with your neighbors when their desire is to push down the house that they've spent nearly $200,000 building. Again, as I said before, I don't, in this case, I don't think that result would be a fair result for the applicant. I have my client here to answer any other questions that there may be. If there's any questions that I can't answer for him, we're happy to answer questions and fill in any of the blanks that the commissioners may have. And thank you for your time.
Commissioners have any questions for this side?
Mr. Darcy wants to speak again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rebuttal for Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy? You want to go ahead and I was going to do the.
You go ahead and do that.
No.
I'll save mine till last.
Come on up and we'll do it. We'll do it this way.
I have another one here, if it's not a corner lot, I have another plat, and to answer the question, you don't have to go on a person's property because we survey reflectively. I can set up on a control point, and over here on the left, you see that, that I had marked out in red, that other piece, that where his driveway is gonna come into. The county does not own that piece of property. Mr. Sellers does not own that piece of property. I'm in negotiations right now to own that piece of property. So there's, things happen, it wasn't surveyed. You all asked them to survey the property. There's an email on that. He didn't have it surveyed. So that's where we are on it. And I think we can work something out, but there's some problems here that has been misled. There's been things that have been done that's not right. The character of a person matters. I'm a surveyor. Everything I do, and some of the guys here know me, everything has to be precise, done to the letter, because what I put out has to be exact. Then everybody else can have a variable. But if he surveyed this in and pulled his own, he can't read a tape measure because there's no way he took his plat and pulled the lines in there, because I located most of these corners going around it with a tape measure, not on his property, on other people's property. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sellers? Did you want to hear from Mr. Sellers? They still have time.
Did he want to speak? Okay, we've got a little time on both sides left. Does anyone like to use the balance of their time to say anything? All right, then we're going to give up the balance of the time. That's agreeable. Now, I'll ask the commissioners, do you have any questions or comments or thoughts?
I do have one, and it isn't on the map. Everybody's looking at it. It's on what Mr. Darcy handed, the piece of property that he's talking about, that he's in negotiation with. Does that belong to the golf course, or?
No, sir, it does not belong to the golf course.
I didn't know if it was a construction interest or what that was.
Georgia Southern bought the entire golf course, was plat on that piece did not belong to the golf course at the time. The golf course was sold to Georgia Southern.
Well, by the aerial photo, who's using that property for a driveway now?
My neighbors,
Your neighbor?
Haley and Matt, are using it as a property. Mr. Joyner built this house, it's one of the first houses that was built out there. He had basically it says private drive on it.
Right.
And there's lots of things that we had to go through Mr. Jimmy to be able to do. Everything in this subdivision, when he was alive, Miss Marianelle was alive, had to go through them to be done. That's the reason it looks so neat and put together. Very good building on this. Love the layout. So Scott Joyner built the house and he went over the property line. He ended up having to buy another lot. And in buying that other lot, he has access through that piece of property there, for a driveway, and that was all put in. My house, when I built it, I had a garage on it, and I ended up doing a shop, and I had to go to Mr. Jimmy about putting a shop over there instead of a garage. And we had all that taken care of, and the houses aren't that big. I mean, it's 2,000 square feet is what we're supposed to have there, and it looks nice, and it's a good neighborhood. And I'm sure that we probably work something out with Mr. Sellers on this to get this to work, but, I'm just gonna tell everybody in here, if we're able to work out something, you're gonna have the smallest house and the best neighborhood if y'all wanna come buy one. And if the county wants to buy it, I think that'd be a great deal for the county to have a piece of property.
Any other ideas?
Will the chairman yield?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, what was the name of the first lady who spoke on behalf of the opposition?
Mrs. Georgina Darcy. Mrs. Georgina Darcy.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Mr. and Mrs. Darcy have both suggested what was reiterated, well, not reiterated, spoken at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And I would probably ask Mr. Matthews why Mr. Sellers made no gesture to try to reach out to the Darcys or the neighbors.
And I can let Mr. Sellers speak to that if needed further, but I think that the attitude towards him since this whole process started has been very much, we want the house gone. It's not, we want to come up with some form of a resolution. I think he's wide open to having a conversation about what can be done, because, the goal is for this house to be there permanently. But when the starting point is that the best thing that can happen is we mow your house down that you've spent all this money, that's really not a very welcoming start to conversation.
Well, I think I understand that, but is there any consideration to speaking with the neighbors?
I don't want to speak for him, but I think you'd be wide open to that.
I would definitely be willing to sit down and speak with them. I don't know how something so simple got blown into this big proportion. But the main thing is that I bought a lot that's set for 30-something years, and I've done something with it, and I didn't do, I think, what the neighbors would have wanted me to do with it, and so we are here today because of that, and more than anything. But I will be more than willing to sit down and discuss with them. But as Mr. Matthews just stated, in the previous meeting I had, when my neighbor is gonna stand up here and say, the best thing the county can do is make him tear the whole house down or push the whole house over. As an individual and as a citizen, and just as a person in general, do I wanna entertain conversation with someone who's gonna say that in a public setting? I mean, really? And that's the only thing I have to say about that. If Mr. Darcy and Ms. Darcy and the other neighbors, wanna sit down and talk, that's fine, but the problem's gonna be, well, we want you to do this, and if you don't do it, we're gonna be right here again.
Well, my opinion is professionally that if both parties are willing to show good faith, goodwill, and forgiveness, ultimately it's up to the board. But if there's any kind of spirit to do that between you all, I would recommend that the board defer this. And if you all come up with a solution where there's some kind of withdrawal of the variance application, we can work on that. But my thinking is good spirit, goodwill, forgiveness, and if you can work out a mutually advantageous solution, that's a happy thing. And I'll yield the floor back.
Yes, sir.
I make a recommendation, we table this to next meeting, get the two parties together, and they can bring it back, with some solution, and then we'll work on it then.
All right, that's in the form of a motion. I have a second on that.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. That's unanimous approval. Negotiate, and bring it back, and hopefully, maybe you won't have to bring it back. So, thank you all for coming tonight. We'll move on to item number 2.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 2 tonight is for a conditional use applied by Mr. Alex Hunter Johnson. It's for a conditional use to allow for home occupation cottage industry.
Could you hold on just 1 second? We've got a rumbling going on. Now, for us to be able to hear, we would love for you to be quiet, if at all possible. If you need to start over, then please do so, because I didn't hear anything.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 2 tonight is for a conditional use applied by Alex Johnson to allow a home occupation cottage industry. The property is located at 100 Got No Lane. And this case also has a little bit to unpack here to try and get you up to speed on how this came about. But this property is located near Highway 25. Again, Got No Lane is a private drive accessed through an easement. But this is in the north part of Bulloch County. Ponderosa Road off of Highway 25 is the access point to the property. The property, as well as surrounding properties, are zoned Ag 5, in which cottage industries on a home occupation scale, that's just a little more than your typical in-home occupation. Cottage industries are allowed in Ag 5 zoning. And this is an aerial of the property. Again, access as shown through the line and highlighted there. On the left side is the parcel. There's a single-family home on the parcel, as well as accessory structure. I think you can see this on your monitor. The accessory structure is here. And this is the access onto the private drive. This is going into the property. And this is accessed by an easement. And this case was, planning and zoning met a few times on this, which we were instructed to go visit the site again and, take any photos that, I guess, some questions about storage of materials were brought up in the process. These are vehicles that are used by employees or their personal vehicles. So there is some employees that come and go to the property for work, which cottage industry standards in our ordinance, have the regulations for number of employees. So that's, hopefully that shows you the scale of the operation. And I won't go into the specifics. I'll let the applicant talk about the business that he performs and all that. So staff has a few conditions if approval is granted, and then Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval by a 3-0 vote. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson or Mr. Steve Rushing as agent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am Steve Rushing, and tonight I'm an attorney here in town. I'm representing Alex Hunter Johnson in this application. He is the property owner. It's 14.99 acres, and then, as James stated, it is accessible by Got No Lane, which is a 40-foot wide private easement. You said it wanders all the way through those woods till it gets past the pond to their house, and then you go beyond their house and you'll get to their little pole barn where he has his storage located. As you perhaps may have read in our letter of intent, very little business actually occurs on this site. It is principally a storage facility for the materials and equipment that are used in Mr. Johnson's business, and a meeting place for he to meet up with his employees to receive instructions before they head out to the various jobs, most of which are located outside of the county. Now, Mr. Johnson is operating a contracting business. It's communications contracting that installs fiber optic networks for apartment buildings. So all the actual installations are occurring off-site in various apartment buildings who have contracted with Mr. Johnson for his services. No customers ever come to this property. It is only his employees in their standard size vehicles. They typically come on a Monday morning, receive their instructions, pick up the materials, and head to the job, and they come back when they finish the job. Oftentimes that's on Friday, drop off the leftover materials, which are stored there on the site. Everything is stored, as you see, inside the shop, except for those spools of fiber optic cable, which are stored outside. Now, even that is not visible from any road, as the property you see is set well back off of the road. In fact, the house that you saw in the picture where the vehicles were located is Mr. Johnson's house. He can hardly see the shop even from his house, but it's not visible from any neighbor's house or from the road. And there's not even materials delivered to the site because they're typically on jobs. They don't allow materials to be delivered to his site. He has those materials delivered to his dad's site, and then periodically he'll take his pickup and an 18-foot trailer and go pick up those materials from his dad's and bring it back there to the shop, again, using his standard size truck and trailer. So before I tell you what we are here for, let me tell you what we're not here for. We're not seeking a rezoning. This is an Ag 5 zone, and we want it to remain an Ag 5 zone. If you look at the Ag 5 section of the ordinance, which is Article 5, Section 503 are the permitted uses. That would include a farm, of course, single-family dwellings, nurseries, and so forth. And under Section B, in that same section, they have conditional uses, a farm supply store, daycare facilities. These are all located there. And then in Section D, in the same Ag 5 zone, is the following accessory uses are allowed as conditional uses in Ag 5 district. And the first one is home occupation, cottage industry. And then that is further defined in the code at Section 1425, home occupation, cottage industry. And under it are some 20 provisions that would, must be met to fit that definition, all 20 of which Mr. Johnson meet. James referenced a couple of them. You can't have more than 6 employees. The property has to sit on at least 2 acres. The person operating the business has to be the owner of the property. Only a small sign that's not exceeding 2 square feet can appear. We don't need a sign. Again, no customers come to his property, so he doesn't even have a sign. But he meets all 20 of those provisions in that home occupation cottage industry. The county staff did a great job assessing these provisions in the staff report, which concludes that the property appears suitable for our proposed use. Mr. Johnson, who controls all the deliveries to the site by himself or his employees, fully accepts the condition that the staff suggested to require deliveries to be made between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Therefore, on behalf of Mr. Johnson, who again is the owner of the property and the applicant for this conditional use, we respectfully request that you adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the staff and approve this application for a conditional use to permit this home occupation cottage industry in the form of a fiber optic communications business within this Ag 5 zone property of Mr. Johnson. We will reserve the rest of our time for any rebuttal, if that's okay. Thank you.
Michael Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I feel a certain sense of deja vu. Mr. Couch and some of the others may have been here through all the planning and zoning meetings when we've been here speaking about this. I did want to at least ask about, it was my count at the meeting on June 13th that the vote was 2-1, not 3-0. Did one of the Planning and Zoning Commission change their vote after the fact?
I would have to go back and look at the minutes, but
nevertheless, that was the vote. Naturally, it wasn't what we wanted. I do ask you to note one comment Mr. Rushing made when he said, and I quote, he is operating the business. Understand, that hasn't been approved. Business has been operating out there for 4 or 5 years without ever having sought permission from you. And I think that tells you something about why, based on the petition that is in the record, virtually every single one of the other people that live in this vicinity, at least 12 homeowners out there and their families have signed the petition asking that this conditional use not be approved. Mr. Johnson has thumbed his nose at the requirements already and has been doing it for a few years because he has been operating this business. Wouldn't be here had Ms. Wright and the other neighbors in the area registered a complaint, at which point he, somewhat 4 or 5 years after the fact, said, oh, maybe I better go get permission. Otherwise, he's been acting with impunity. The traffic has increased, and even the staff's study tells us that the increased traffic out there is not suitable. You all may be familiar with Ponderosa Road. It's one of the dirt roads in the county that we're also fiercely proud of. And it won't handle a whole lot of additional traffic, regardless of whether or not customers go in to the business or not. Fact of the matter is, these employees, morning and night, and sometimes during the day, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Every one of these people bought their property out there because it was zoned Ag 5. And as you all have said in the zoning, one purpose for Ag 5 is to protect the area from commercial or industrial encroachment. Well, this is commercial activity. It's been going on. Only now we're belatedly seeing Mr. Johnson ask permission. So the one question is, these citizens who went out there, and yeah, Ag 5 does have as a conditional use, but that's not the purpose of Ag 5 zoning. And I don't need to tell any of you about the purpose of the zoning regulations. You drafted them. But are the citizens of our county entitled to depend on the word of the commission when it makes a zoning ordinance? Can they trust in the integrity of our elected officials to do what they said? They move out there, they make an investment. These are not temporary homes. These are not river houses that you go to just to visit. These are people's residences. And they came out there expecting to have a residential character to this area. Indeed, Ms. Wright, whom I represent, sold this property to Mr. Johnson on the premise that he and his family would move in and enjoy the life that she did. This was her parents' home. It was a home she grew up in. She built a home elsewhere on the larger tract. But that was the concept. And she was pleased that a young family was going to come out and enjoy the residential character out in the country. It's a great combination in an Ag 5 area. And every one of these people who signed the petition feel the same way. And so now Mr. Johnson, having already been operating his business without any permits or having been granted the conditional use, comes to you and asks that his interest be elevated over that of literally every other person who lives in the vicinity. So, as I say, question is, where do Bulloch County citizens put their faith and trust? I'll reserve the rest of my time.
Anyone else sign?
Is anyone,
Okay, then,
no one else is signing?
all right, I would like some rebuttal. Obviously, Mr. Hunter Johnson didn't show up and purchase this property for the purpose of running a business. It kind of gradually grew into that. He started in his home. The shelter that he's using for storage, that was his pole barn that went with his house. You saw his four-wheeler there. He does live here. You see his personal equipment there. And he just kind of started it there in his home, and then it started taking off a little bit by little. And he eventually took in his pole barn and put some sides on it so it would hold some materials. So it's not that he set out to violate any kind of rules. It just kind of grew into what it was, and that's why once it's reached this level, it's why it has brought him back here to this commission and seeking this conditional use, which is allowed in the Ag 5 zone, even provided for. And I want to remind the commission that this is an Ag 5 zone. It's not a residential zone. Commissioner Ryan Brannon of the Planning Commission, he's a farmer here in town, and he reminded the neighbors that this is an Ag zone, and it's not meaning that they're going to be free from impact of vehicles. And in fact, he said his own farm had large vehicles, tractors, combines, and peanut trailers and such that is going up and down his dirt road all the time. And so the fact that you're in the Ag 5 zone doesn't mean you're not going to have trucks going up and down your dirt road. And again, we reiterate that there are no commercial-sized vehicles that go in and out of this property. It is those vehicles that you saw in the picture, that was when the employees were there for some instructions, and they're just normal-sized pickups. And as I indicated, their activity is not on the site. They pick up the materials, and they are doing their work on these apartment buildings where they're running this cable. So it does fit. Mr. Classens did not even address the 20 items that are under the cottage industry requirements that we meet all 20 of. And so it is still our position that the Planning Commission got it right, that we fall within those requirements for a cottage industry, and we urge you to adopt that and to grant our application. Thank you again.
Mr. Classens?
Just a couple of points. The property was bought in 2018. By 2019, he was operating this business. And there's been no denial about that. The fact that it gradually grew doesn't mean that he waited until he got permission to start it. Showed up out there within 6 or 7 months. He was operating this business, hadn't asked anybody for anything, and he built these buildings in 2021 and 2024. You saw in the photograph the pole bar, and then what has been called the big building. Why would I go through the 20 things in section 1425? It's Ag 5. All these people had a chance to live anywhere else they wanted, and yeah, they know Ag 5 is zoned for farming. We're not talking about farming here. And wherever Mr. Brandon's farm is, it's not right here in this neighborhood where these people have a right to expect not only that they'll get what they bargained for, but that they can trust in their county officials to protect them, just as those county officials said they would.
Mr. Classens,
Yes, sir.
let's just take this on a different road. So if this man, Mr. Johnson, whoever bought this property, and he was a truck driver, he still got to pay for that property, truck driver or not. And we're not talking about 5, we're talking about 14 acres. You know, we're not talking about a small piece of property. I've been wanting to be honest with you here. It's hard to me to grunt a man trying to make a living, especially a young man nowadays. And especially to side after somebody let him buy the property. I'm just, you know, I want to appease everybody, and I want everybody to be happy on every situation, but we've got to make a stand, and I know we've got these regulations, and we've got all this, but sometimes it just boils down to a little bit of common sense. I mean, these people have got to understand there's got to be some way to pay for it, and not everybody works at Gulfstream, not everybody works at, the ports, and not everybody, has a job, which all those other jobs are needed, are desk jobs, and work for somebody else. Some of these are, they start new businesses. I know I've 20 years at Georgia Port Authority and come home to farm full time, so you can tell how smart I am. So, but the fact of the matter is 14 acres and you still can't even run a business out of it. I mean, that's drawing the line for me there. I just find that hard to side against that. And I'm just speaking real honestly here now.
I appreciate
all the other commissioners can say what they want to too.
I point out the line was drawn by the commission when it enacted the zoning regulations. What these folks are asking is that those regulations be enforced as written, and that they get what they were told they would get. Now, it's in a subdivision, but there's all kinds of commercial property all over Bulloch County. And Nobody else out there is operating a business. Nobody else out there has already violated.
Yeah, $50,000 an acre, yeah. There's a bunch of it around Bulloch County.
Once again, you make a decision to go into business, you need to do it same way as everybody else does. Find a place. He bought this as a home. It was sold to him as a home. Granted, Ag 5 doesn't connote strictly residential, but the character of this area is residential and has been. All of these folks out there have said to the commissioners in that petition, we don't want it. We don't want the traffic. We don't want the excess traffic going by our houses. We didn't count on it. And this fellow didn't let us know ahead of time. And I can, if we're going to engage in hypotheticals, had he said, you know, Ms. Wright, I'm going to start my fiber optic installation business out of my house, she wouldn't have sold any property. So we're not talking about keeping somebody from making a living. We're talking about keeping him from disturbing all the other neighbors out there by doing something that is demonstrably against the zoning regulations, which he's been doing for 4 or 5 years already. And that has grown, and if what has been said is to be believed, will continue to grow. What more do you need? The XX traffic is already disturbing the neighbors. And again, I'm not just saying this. Those folks put it in writing. They put their signatures on it, and they delivered it to all of you in the form of that petition. So it's not just Ms. Wright. It's not just me. But sure, he's got a right to make a living. Other people are in the fiber optic business. They just don't do it to the chagrin of everybody that lives near them in their homes.
Thank you.
Now, both of you have a little extra time on the clock. Would you care to use it, or you want to relinquish it and we move to a vote?
We'll waive the time, Ms. Wright.
Same here, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Now, we'll go to the commissioners for discussion.
Let nobody else sign up.
Can I, I'm Alex
No, sir.
Johnson.
No, sir.
Do you mind if I say something right quick?
You the owner?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you can say something.
I just want to say right quick that I did not start my property or start my business on that property until much after. My business originally started in Counter County at my dad's location. It's actually, I used to live next door to that property. That's where my business started and grew there. It did not move to Bulloch County until 2022, I believe, 2022, yeah, 2022 is when I actually moved all my material, my people, and actually didn't have an employee until then. And I wanted to say most of all that I apologize for my mistake and not knowing the zoning commissions, and that's 100% in my ignorance. I didn't take a class in school or anything that said anything about what zoning regulations, and I understand that's my responsibility to learn that, but I do want y'all to know that once this was brought to my attention that I was in fault, I hope every action that I've made has given you the idea that I want to hold an upstanding business in this county, and that if I was to ever grow outside of the regulations that Mr. Rushing has clearly poured out, I would move my business before that happened. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, any more discussion?
Would the chairman yield the floor?
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question to Mr. Claessens? Mr. Claessens? Just a very simple question. Do you believe, regardless of what's gone on in the past, which I think the Development Services Office knows that this property was out of zoning compliance and was trying to correct it with the cottage industry application in an Ag 5 district. Do you believe, or would you be willing to give your legal opinion, for lack of, not a written one, but just verbal advice, based on what you've seen in the ordinance. If the property complies with the 20 factors in the ordinance and these conditions, do you believe it's possible for Mr. Johnston to do that if he knows he's under a watchful eye?
Well, is it possible? I think, of course, it's possible. There's always room to negotiate. We've reached out to Mr. Hunter through his attorneys, of course, not directly to him. Haven't heard anything back. Reached out on more than one occasion. Now, there's a couple of issues, and we've tried to open a dialogue, but thus far, apparently, it's been all or nothing, this or nothing. And we're open to compromise. Certainly, it's this board, with the assistance of the staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission, is this board's authority to grant or don't grant, same as this board creates the zoning ordinance for the county at large. I don't know that my opinion really means anything in that context. This is y'all's job, and I'm not presumptuous enough to start telling you, but I'm asking on behalf of Ms. Wright certain things, and you've heard me ask those things. But is it possible? Sure. I mean, many things are possible. Well, it's not desirable according to 95% of the people that live out there.
Understood. And I do respect that and some of the comments that were made about potential traffic or existing traffic. And frankly, the pictures that I saw that were taken that are connected to the application, I don't remember all 20 strictures in the cottage industry requirements, but I probably saw up to half a dozen where I said to myself, that's not a cottage industry. And I think it's important for everyone to understand the reason we put this in place is, well, a lot like Mr. Connors said, it's an opportunity to create something between a home occupation and a more robust kind of business activity where you really should either get rezoned commercial, industrial, or go to town and hang a shingle. So I'm not sure I saw only 6 trucks out there or 6 employees. The spools outside of an uncovered area, that's obviously out of compliance. I can't say if they're really adhering to noise standards or hours of operation, but that is the expectation of the ordinance. And perhaps I shouldn't have asked you to speculate and say what is possible, but I think what really has to be determined, and ultimately it may be by Mr. Johnson, we certainly hope his business is very successful in the future, like all entrepreneurs. But I think the point is going to come where if he continues to be that successful, he'll have to hang a shingle in town or a major highway rather than his homestead. So I pose that question not to be interrogative or anything, but just I think in the spirit of the ordinance, if he can follow it, sins of the past, there's probably a lot of cottage industries we don't know about.
I wouldn't be surprised, but back to the original point, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And if there was to be some positive response to the efforts we've made, we might not be standing here today. Certainly, we've been trying literally for months and absolutely nothing. But
well said.
All the neighbors think that the activity out there has been understated. At the same time, they're not going to stake the place out. They aren't going to put up cameras, and they're not going to go to those kind of extents because that's unseemly, to say the least. But I think some of what we've seen would lead to the inferences that you've made and perhaps other commissioners have made as well.
Well said, and I acquiesce, and I yield to the chairman.
Okay. Now I think it's time for us to do our job, as stated. Seek a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before I make the motion, I feel like this can always, you can do this 100 ways and you can think the best of anybody you want to, but it'll turn around and bite you every time. Mr. Johnson, I'm gonna make this motion to approve the cottage industry. When these people ask you something, treat your neighbor like you want to be treated. Yes, sir. And I would expect the same out of them. Don't let this come back up here to me. I really, honestly, I want everybody to be successful, and I want everybody to be happy. Don't let this come back up here to me.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands. All right, we've got 4 hands shown. Mr. Mosley is in favor. We've got 5 hands shown. Those opposed? 1, so 5 to 1. The motion carries. Proceed. Item number 3. Yes, sir.
Agenda item number 3 is an application to rezone approximately 34 acres from a residential 80,000 square foot or R80 to Ag 5, agricultural 5 acres. Application was made by Miss Nancy Brown, in which the purpose would be for use, for the additional uses as permitted in Ag 5 zoning. Also specifically the use of the family provision, which allows for deeding property to immediate family members. The property is located at 568 Old Register Road. This is the general location of the property. It's south of Statesboro, again on Old Register Road. This is the property as shown with the zoning map, zoning overlay. Nearby zoning is R80. Present use for the property is agricultural use, in which it's our understanding by the application that to place a home, a single-family residence towards the back side of the property to the, I guess, the east side of the property, to split that out really wouldn't fit the criteria of a residential lot with the road frontage requirements, but meeting the character and intent of an agricultural 5-acre zone would then allow the applicant to use the family provision portion of the zoning ordinance to then deed up to 4.99 acres to immediate family member. And so that's where we arrived at the Ag 5 zoning request. The zoning for the area was, I believe, zoned originally in 1994 when the zoning ordinance came into place, being that areas around city of Statesboro were considered, where growth would go, and then the zoning being laid out in residential zones. So again, the property owner did not necessarily zone this R80 at any time. And then this is the general location on site, roadway access, and again, referring back to the aerial, that's the current use being agricultural it meets the definition or the requirements of agricultural 5-acre zone. So, and with that, I will ask the applicant to step to the podium. Well, so Ms. Nancy Brown, I guess if she's not here, that's up to y'all what you would like to do, but
I think it's customarily, our custom is to defer when the client does not show up. So, does anyone have any questions?
We gonna defer moving something out of R80 to Ag 5?
That's what I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman. I think we can vote on
Pull
this.
one.
I mean, keep from we keep backing our log up to hear all these cases. I know the stipulation
Yeah,
behind it.
I think next month is gonna be very busy.
Well, I was just trying to stick to what we normally do. However, I do definitely agree with you. So, let's finish our discussion. We're through it, then I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept this rezoning.
Second.
A motion, second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Mr. Mosley is?
In fact, yes.
He is a yes, so it's a unanimous decision. We'll move to item number 4.
all right, agenda item number 4 is an application to rezone approximately 5.15 acres from an R40 residential 40,000 square foot lot to Ag 5 agricultural 5 acres. The application was made by Mr. Jonathan and Ms. Emily Horseman, which the purpose would be to place a manufactured home on the property and have in which the R40 zone would have to go through a conditional use to place that, and so to be near like zoning, and not having to go through the conditional use, additional cost and things like that. It was suggested that he could zone it to Ag 5. The property is located generally just north of Statesboro off of 301. I believe it's a little north of that star, but this is the zoning layer and aerial for the property. It's located on Lily Creek Road, which was an early planned subdivision with just a few lots. Typically, well, not in 1994, that highway commercial zone, covered that intersection on Old River Road and 301. And then when the property developed in the subdivision, as you can see, there's some Ag 5 properties that stayed there. I can't really speak to the history on those, but again, with the stated use of being able to place a manufactured home on the property, it would be consistent with what is there currently. And so with that, staff recommends approval of the rezone request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a 3-0 vote. And Mr. Horseman, if you're here, if you can step to the podium.
I don't know what to say. No, I bought the land, was gonna build a house. I don't have the time to build a house, according to her. And, she said that I'm gonna take forever. And her and her dad went to the mobile home place, and I guess they bought it or something. And now we can't put it because it's R40, so surprise to them instead. But, Mr. Patrick was telling me about a Family Prevention Act, which is 5 acres. I probably won't do it, but I might. It'd be nice to have that option. But so, basically, if y'all say no, I'm broke. I'm done.
Bet you're the perfect husband.
She,
Do
I
what your
tried
wife,
to tell
do
her.
what your wife wants.
But no, that's really it. Everybody else on the road has one, has mobile homes. I didn't see a problem with it, and then I found out it's R40 and you can't do it. So I'd like to get it rezoned to Ag 5, and that's about it, really. But that's it. Thank y'all.
Okay. Anyone else? No one else to sign? Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? No, that's for a motion.
Move to
Chairman, I
approve.
make a motion that we accept this rezone.
We have a motion, we do have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? And Mr. Mosley,
Yes.
unanimous approval. Thank you. You can leave.
All right, Commissioners, agenda item 5 is an application to rezone approximately 94 acres from Ag 5, agricultural 5 acres to residential 25,000 square foot R25 zone. Application was made by FNT Investments LLC for the purpose of creating a residential neighborhood. The property is located at 201 Rhymes Lane. And just probably to state the obvious, but the remaining agenda items for tonight involve the properties for this proposed development. This is the zoning for the property. The general location would be about a mile south of I-16 on Highway 67 over to Horace Mitchell Road. So access would be from Horace Mitchell Road. There is a portion of the property that borders Neesmith Proctor Road. But as you can see, surrounding parcels are zoned Ag 5, or there are 2 parcels zoned R80. And again, aerial of the property, it is an agricultural area where, this is the site plan that was originally submitted. I do have a site plan that was submitted since Planning and Zoning Commission, in which I'll let the agent describe. I just wanted to mention that. But this would be the overall development as proposed. Again, there's other properties that, for the remaining agenda items, would have to be considered for this concept to work. But the access would be along Horace Mitchell Road. There would have to be, some further study as far as the access point and things like that with the curvature of the road on Horace Mitchell. I'm just restating some things that came up at Planning and Zoning Commission. And then this is at this parcel accesses on Rhymes Lane. So this is a picture of how the property is currently on Rhymes Lane. That's this is Rhymes Lane here. It's, there's 1 or 2 homes, 2 or 3 homes that access this property. So, again, that's the ability to develop or improve that road surface there. I don't believe was available to the developer. So there additional properties were added into the development. I'll go back to the site plan, and then unless you all have any questions, I'll turn it over to the applicant's agent, Mr. Steve Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Once again, I'm acting as attorney in this application. I'm representing several people in this particular case. The applicant is F&T Investments LLC. That's owned and operated by Jason Franklin, and he's got his partner here as well, Joey Cody, who are looking to develop this property. We brought with us one of our engineers, Ryan Poitras, right behind me. Joey Maxwell's out of town tonight, or he'd have been here, but he sent one of his trusted associates, Ryan, to help answer questions. And our current owners of the property are also seated up front, Jimmy Lanier and Danny Clifton. These gentlemen have a contract with these gentlemen to purchase it if the property is rezoned. And as was stated by James, this was an assemblage. This property that's coming before you with this particular application by itself would not make this project possible. It does not abut Horace Mitchell Road. So that's why we have 3 more applications immediately following this one with different property owners who are also here tonight that would connect this site to Horace Mitchell Road and also add land to it for homes to do that. So these sellers and the applicants all join in this application along with the sellers of the 3 parcels that are coming up next because it is all one project. You see there a basic description of our proposed site plan. If all went our way and all the tests were positive, then we could possibly fit 81 lots on this site. However, there is some wetlands in the back, and we don't expect to be able to fully implement that, but that would be our best hope if we could get all those lots in there. After reviewing the county departmental review, the applicant is in agreement with the staff's suggested conditions, with the exception of condition number 4, and that is because we had our emergency access road connecting to Neesmith Proctor Road, a dirt road. And again, with an emergency access, we didn't initially see a problem with that. One, it's only if we've got an emergency in the subdivision, and 2, only if the main access is blocked would this ever be needed. But by placing that on our site plan, the staff suggested that we would need to pave that portion of Neesmith Proctor Road back out to Horace Mitchell Road. And one, that would be very difficult since we don't own that property. We would have to try to acquire it as well. And then secondly, at the Planning Commission meeting, we had several residents that live on Neesmith Proctor Road that said they did not want Neesmith Proctor Road to be paved. And so we kind of took that to heart, and I went back to these engineers right here and said, how can you help us with that? We're back to that Rhymes Lane that you saw that's been the access all these years for, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll put it on there. That has been the primary access to this property, but now we're looking to make it our emergency access and not a principal access. James is right. We couldn't, I don't think, make this road a primary access given its condition, but we believe that it could be an access, and maybe that would appease those persons who, this is Rhymes Lane right here that connects to Horace Mitchell that you just saw in the picture. So we're looking to remove any access to Neesmith Proctor and possibly use Rhymes Lane. And again, I think if we get our zoning, our engineers could figure out those accesses that would be good for all parties involved. But the primary access will be on those next parcels that come up on the next 3 agenda items. Let me address the comprehensive plan, which assigns this whole area, this entire tract, to the neighborhood, suburban neighborhood character area. If you look at that in the comprehensive plan, that character area allows and anticipates R25 zones, which is what we're seeking. So it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. We are looking at site-built, single-family dwellings with a homeowners association. They'd probably fall into $300,000 to $400,000 price range. Notice this site is just a short distance from Highway 67 down Horace Mitchell. According to my measure, it's around 700 feet, so it's not a long distance from Georgia Highway 67. We have tendered a traffic study which states no improvements are required to mitigate the impact of this proposed development. But again, if the county engineers disagreed with our traffic plan, we would look at implementing whatever might work that these county engineers agreed to. We also rely upon our engineers at Maxwell Reddick to ensure that any surface water drainage is controlled, and also that the water for the subdivision will be supplied by a potable water source that would not affect the neighboring properties. None of this property is being farmed for crops, and so no cultivated land will be taken out of production. That's important to some folks. This tract is all woodland and cut over land, and the other 3 parcels that will make up this project that come up on the next agenda items are currently being used as residential lots already. And even though there are still some other residential uses in the neighborhood of this site, we would also install all the adequate buffers that the ordinance requires along all the property lines. Therefore, we respectfully request this Board of Commissioners approve this application for an R25 zone, as well as the next 3 that related applications to allow this medium-sized residential subdivision to be built that is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Again, our engineer Ryan Porthras is here, and I will try to answer any questions you may have, but we would like to reserve our remaining 3 minutes for any rebuttal. Thank you.
We have 11 people signed up to speak, and we have 10 minutes for those 11 people to speak. So, excuse me, if you have a spokesman, you handle it any way you want to handle it. But if you have a spokesman or 2 people or 3 people, and if not, we're going to go right down the list unless we are told differently. All right, start.
Kent Hart.
My name's Kent Hart. I live on Neesmith Proctor Road. One of the things that I'm worried about is the fact that they're going to put a well in that's going to take care of 81 homes and however many people that could turn out to be, sucking my well dry. As it is, we're already talking about pumping water to the meta site, I think it's 10 million gallons a day. That's going to draw the water table in that area. And it's also going to draw this wall to be drawing on top of it. I have animals, I have horses and things like that. And it's families. It's going to be kids wanting to come see my horses and see the ducks and the chickens and whatnot. And that's a lot of liability that I didn't have before. So in that vein, I would appreciate if y'all would not vote for this. Thank you.
Cody Harp.
Thank you for giving me some time to speak, and I'll try to make this quick because I know we have other speakers. I also live on Neesmith Proctor. That was my dad who just went before me. I agree with the concerns he raised about the water table, about the liability of the animals. I'm also worried about increased traffic. While the entrance or emergency exit may or may not be on Neesmith Proctor, there inevitably will be some amount of increased traffic through Neesmith Proctor with 81 new homes. And I think for me, it just comes down to this. Me and my family have chosen to live a private, quiet life in the country. My neighbors and their families have chosen to live a private, quiet life in the country, and this subdivision would destroy that quality of life. I mean, I think that's just the reality. I'm not saying that the developer intended that to be the case. I just think that that's what will actually happen. And so for that reason, I am opposed. Thank you.
Vicky Hart.
Hello, I'm Vicky Hart. I also live on East Smith Proctor Road. That was my family that came before me. I also am worried about the water. I'm worried about the increased traffic. I'm worried about the increased noise. I'm worried about the crime. But what I'm most opposed is, like my son just said, when we moved here in 2002, we moved to a place where we could live a country life, where I can look out my front windows or sit on my swing on my front porch and see God's nature. If y'all approve this, when I go outside, what am I gonna see? I'm gonna see a bunch of other homes. That's why I'm opposed. Thank you.
Mitzi Prophet.
I live on East Smith Proctor Road. I moved here in 2005 because I have a disabled son. And he told me he was here last time and he was very nervous and he didn't want to come tonight because he said we left suburbia to move to rural Georgia. And he graduated Georgia Southern in 2020. He said, I want to live here forever. I don't want to look out my back door and see houses and noise. We have enough traffic from Savage Trails. It is dangerous on Horace Mitchell Road in a handicap van. The traffic is more, the water, the way I could go on and on. So we oppose this. We want to keep our rural Georgia. For us, yes, it is growing and we like 16 and we love Statesboro, but we oppose the big old subdivision in our backyard.
It's Rachel Welling.
I'm so nervous, so please excuse me. And I had a speech written, but I think I should just speak to you. I live a couple houses down from where Horace Mitchell ends and Mill Branches begins. So this subdivision will be right before me. I have a picture here of my 5 children on East Smith Proctor. We walk the road. We know Miss Hart. She works at Neville's Elementary. We live a rural life. As someone else just mentioned, Savage Trails absolutely has upheaved my life. We've ended up with cars in our front yard, beer cans all the time. Traffic is insane on Thursdays to Sunday. We moved here with our children to live a quiet life. And Mr. Thompson, I don't obviously know where anyone else lives, but Mr. Thompson, I know your farm. We love it. We love looking at your Christmas lights. Can you imagine if this happened in front of you? It's absolutely devastating. And I have talked to some teachers at Neville's Elementary, and they have told me, obviously off the record, because that they don't want to say this, in public, but they can't handle, Neville's Elementary cannot handle the amount of children that this would bring. And I'm begging you for my 5 children. They could be the future of Bulloch County, and I'm begging you, let them live the rural life that you were afforded as well. Let us live in privacy and come to a compromise with the builders, with the owners of these properties, because you do have the right to sell and build on your land. But can we come to a compromise where everybody in the area is happy? If you go and look at Q Public, you can see that most of the lots on Mill Branch and Horace Mitchell are there's only a few that are 1 acre. The rest of them are 5, 6, 15, 100 acres on this road. So please, I beg of you to think about my kids and think about the other kids in Neville's Elementary that this would affect, and the teachers, and I beg you, please. Thank you.
Jerry Renew.
How y'all doing? My name's Jerry New. I live on 2443 New Smith Proctor Road. If you look at the corner lot, I can't see it's back there. It's on the corner right there where the circle is. That's our property. It stays underwater even during the dry season. I'm worried about the water coming off that. They can say what they want to. Been living there all my life. Heat of summer. Just like you said, you ain't never seen the river that low. it's still water there, not just cause of this rain, it's been water there all year. I can't even hunt back there because of, and now, when they do this, I won't be able to hunt on my property. I won't even be able to utilize, not even bow hunt, which I always have. Now, you know, the only thing that I'm really worried about and ask about is, you know, the R-25. There's no reason for that. Everybody's Ag 5, let's keep it Ag 5. They can do whatever they want to under them things. Happy for them. You know, I could use that part of some work if they need some help. Ag 5. Anything other than that, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work for me. And I'm definitely not gonna give up my land to put no road there. It'll be over my dead body. Thank y'all, I oppose it.
Maud Renew.
That was my husband, and I live at 2443 in East Smith Proctor Road also. I had to come out of my comfort zone and had to ask for help to get a petition. I hope everybody got the petition that I got turned into y'all. Got over 300 people to sign it. My husband and I walked to all the neighbors on all the roads that are affected, Horace Mitchell and East Smith Proctor, Highway 67, Old Groveland Road. We got out and talked to all the neighbors. Not one of them wants this. We've put all of our money into the spot because we plan on dying here, you know. We chose to live in an Ag 5, so you can have chickens and cows and horses. You go down the road just a few doors down, the Hendrickses have cows right there. So there is farmland there. I mean, I don't know that you can have a cow in town, but maybe you can. But I just hope that you don't, because like I said, we enjoy our peace and quiet. We don't want the higher property taxes. We don't want no more crime. We don't need any more traffic. The East Smith Proctor Road on the other way is not, you cannot even get down it. It's washed out completely. And like they said, it's gonna overpopulate our schools. I mean, the schools, it was already in there that Bulloch High is already, not Bulloch High, I can't remember whatever Bulloch School is, Berkeley, yeah, that they are already at capacity. And the noise and the flooding, we're already under in water right now. Where they're wanting to put the well at, it's already underwater right now, I guess. I mean, it's just, we don't want this subdivision. We all had to purchase our land under Ag 5. I don't know what makes these people think that they're better than us, that they deserve to have it changed to R25. We all will have to follow rules. We all followed the Ag 5 rule for 5 acres per dwelling, and they should have to do it also. I oppose this. Thank y'all.
Belinda Larson.
I'm Belinda Larson. I live on East Smith Proctor Road, right across from where they want to put the well. I really oppose this as the well is too close to us. There's going to be too much traffic, too much crime. We have horses, we have chickens, ducks, geese, everything you imagine. I don't want all those kids over there. I don't want people over there. I just want to live a quiet life, and all of this will upend everything. Thank you.
David Larson.
Well, I had a thing all set up, but I guess that's gone. I guess the only thing I'm gonna bring up is, I can't even find it now. Oh, there it is. According to your own Bulloch County Departmental Review, the final staff recommendations for these tracts stated they had a neutral to slightly negative impact on county services. That was 6 negative, 4 neutral, only 1 positive. I had to call for an ambulance. It took them 45 minutes to find my place. My neighbors had a house fire. It took them over 30 minutes to get there. This is just gonna overtax our county services. And you know what? You made a comment last time. We're not opposed to growth. Just like Jerry said, keep it Ag 5. I have no problem. But you put invade 81 houses in that area, it's gonna mess up everything we've got going out there. That's it. Thank you.
Judy Tanner.
Hello, thank you for listening to me. I live on East Smith Proctor Road. I have lived there for 23 years now. When I first bought my property, it was 10 acres or more. Since they have moved it to Ag 5, we have had some wonderful neighbors move in, and we like each and every one of them. We all kind of know each other. We feel safe and comfortable within our community out there. We all have children and pets and elderly that live with us. We please beg of you to keep this R5, and we do oppose. Thank you very much.
And that was it for the opposed. We have Ryan Poitras signed up in 4.
Just here for any type of questions if need
Okay.
be.
That's it.
Little rebuttal?
Sir.
Yes. Certainly, we do not look to degrade these 3 or 4 families that have come before us tonight. We definitely do not want to interfere with their way of life. We're not looking to change them having animals on their property. We certainly want them to continue to do that. Far as the water well, one, that's going to be an EPD-approved water well. They would have the ones that govern that. It's in the first subdivision in the county. We've got plenty of others, and I don't know of one yet that has caused the surrounding properties to lose water in their water wells. These are deep water wells that the EPD require for these communities. Far as the traffic, I'm a little bit puzzled. We're required by the county rules to engage traffic engineers, which they've done that, and they have brought their full report. We've paid them to the county, and they have indicated that there would be no new requirements or improvements to mitigate the anticipated impact of this subdivision. I think that's important. There's a lot of folks that are assuming some things, but we've actually engaged professionals that do this for a living, and that's just what they tell us. We have to rely on that, these traffic engineers. And, you know, I hear a couple of conflicting things. One that it's just a rural life with a few folks, but then they indicate there's already a bad traffic problem. So there's 300 neighbors that have signed. I'm not sure where those 300 folks are, but we're only looking to add, and we're looking to add 80 more to those folks that are here already. These folks wanted to live out here in the country. We're looking to put lots out there for maybe 80 more, but we're not looking to take all the land to do it. We can do that with this tract of land if we're permitted with the R25 zone. And again, I don't know about future children visiting. I don't think we can anticipate that as a board that's going to happen. Certainly, I would hope families maintain their children within their control. But we look to be good neighbors to these folks. We're talking about, the neighborhood going down just because we're adding a subdivision to the neighborhood. And remember, what we're doing, we're trying to follow the comprehensive plan, which has circled this area for future development with R25 zone. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Going to do something. I want to ask for 1 minute to be put on the clock. If you'll start it, that 1 minute is for the commissioners to think about what they have heard. Then we will go into this discussion. Thank you. Now I'm going to open it up to the commissioners for any discussion that you would want to have.
Mr. Rush. Yes, sir. Come to the podium, please. If this takes place, the Rhymes Lane there, that's gonna be a knockdown gate. It'll be gated except for,
That's what typically the emergency access are, that doesn't let just people drive in and out of the subdivision that way. It's just for emergency vehicles that would have access through the gate.
okay. Now, how about the other adjacent, the property owners that y'all are under contract with? Could you have the one stand up just with y'all tonight?
Yeah, Carrie and Candace, they're on the back row. That's our next two owners that have the 3 lots that are coming up next that connect this property to
So they
ours.
have the adjacent 3 lots?
They do.
Them two own the 3 lots?
Correct.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Then I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before I make a motion, I just want to say that I know that this isn't always the thing that everybody wants to hear, but I lived, where I live now, I've been 39 years in Ag 5, Dirt Road, that's where I moved. That's where I wanted to live. I've been there 39 years. There's 3 subdivisions across from me. My road's paved. I'm still living there. It didn't actually change my lifestyle, but, you know, sometimes things change. But this is in the comprehensive plan, been in the comprehensive plan. And we're not taking ag land from it. I'm gonna make a motion to approve this.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 1. Motion carries by 5 to 1 vote.
Cannot wait till January 20th. We cannot wait till January.
Order. We'll be ordering you now.
We'll move on to item number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 6 is a rezone application of approximately 4.84 acres from Ag 5 to R25 for the purpose of creating a residential neighborhood. Property is located at 100 Horace Mitchell Road. This parcel is shown highlighted in blue, again overlaid with the zoning map. There's a single-family residence on the parcel currently. And then this is outlined showing how it incorporates into the larger piece from the previous agenda item, as well as the site plan. And thus looking into the property currently. This would be approximately, I believe, approximately where the entry exit would be for that subdivision. And I did have the county engineer confirm in which we would work through this through the Planning and Zoning Commission to ensure the site distance would be, you know, there for the curvature of that road. So. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, Mr. Steve Rushing, or agent, excuse me.
Again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the same project, so I'm not going to bore you with the same presentation that I just gave, but it's all the same sketch plan that you see. We certainly will use our traffic engineers and work with the county engineers to make a safe entrance in relation to the curve there on Horace Mitchell Road. This property is owned by a different owner. This is Candace Dennis, one of the ladies sitting in the back row. This property, as you see, abuts the 94 acres that we just rezoned and will connect it to the Horace Mitchell Road. It will add a place for us to put the main entrance, as well as add a few lots to the subdivision. Again, it's still, as I reiterated, this is within the comprehensive land use plan. Developers are using that plan to find properties within that area to hopefully be able to do a subdivision where it's already anticipated that there should be some future residential use. And so that's, again, why we're here with this particular property, because it does fall within that comprehensive plan. We're going to meet all the rules. We've already done the traffic study, and we'll comply with that. And again, I reiterate everything else that I've stated. We certainly have to have the access. If we don't rezone these lots that connect us, then the previous rezone would really have no effect. So we need to have these approved as R25 as well, and that will give us a good entrance into this subdivision that we will maintain and work with the county on. Thank you again.
Kent Harp, Cody Harp, Vicky Harp, Mitzi Prophet, Rachel Welling, Jerry Renew, Maud Renew, Belinda Larson, David Larson, Judy Tanner. Okay.
And that was the names that are spoken. Just wanted to make certain we call those names out again. We'll turn it over to commissioners for discussion. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor, discussion? Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
So this one is a unanimous approval. Moving to the next item. Number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is to rezone approximately 4.84 acres from Ag 5 to R25 for the purpose of creating a residential neighborhood. FNT Investments LLC was the applicant, and this property is located at 150 Horace Mitchell Road. This property is adjacent to both the two previous agenda items. And again, very, very similar to the one just prior. So there's a single-family residence on the property currently, and then, again, that would be looking back towards Highway 67 along Horace Mitchell Road and surrounding properties. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Rushing as agent.
I know y'all getting tired of me. This evening, I'll make this one brief. I said that last one was Candace Dennis. Was that correct? And this one is Carrie's?
Correct.
Okay. They're side by side, almost the same size. Again, combined, they'll give us the needed access to our larger tract. And again, all of our sellers have come together with our buyers to make this happen, to fall within the comprehensive plan to make this subdivision a reality in that part of the county. We ask for your support on this one as well. Again, they're all required to make this project work. Thank you.
Call the names out. For those that might want to speak again.
That was Kent Harp, Cody Harp, Vicky Harp, Mitzi Prophet, Rachel Welling, Jerry Renew, Maud Renew, Belinda Larson, David Larson, and Judy Tanner.
Thank you. No one's here to speak against, so discussion for the commissioners. You have anything you'd like to say? Then hearing none, I will ask for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve, a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
That was Mr. Mosley, so it's a unanimous approval. Motion carries. Item number 8.
Agenda item number 8 is a rezone request for approximately 1 acre from Ag 5 to R25 for the purpose of creating a residential neighborhood. FNT Investments LLC is the applicant. This parcel is in between the other agenda items, and which goes along with the same site plan. And that's, again, the site plan. So Mr. Rushing as agent.
I promise you it's my last time tonight. This 1 acre parcel is owned also by Kerry Dennis, same as the last one. Gentlemen, these were all different tax parcels. I wish I could have brought them all to you in one application, but because they're different tax parcels, I think the staff would tell you we have to have a separate application for each one, even when we assemble them as one project. So finally, we ask for your support and approval of R25 on this last 1 acre parcel to make this project complete. Thank you.
Okay. Kent Harp, Cody Harp, Vicky Harp, Mitzi Prophet, Rachel Welling, Jerry Renew, Maud Renew, Belinda Larson, David Larson, Judy Tanner, undecided, Sean Davidson.
Good evening. The property I live on is actually not directly adjacent to that. The corner of my property butts to the corner of this. I just have a couple questions. First off, I know there's supposed to be a 25-foot boundary around this. What will that be? Will it be trees, bushes? I'm just wondering what will be a buffer between my property and this.
I believe the code requires it to be landscaped, so.
Okay. Okay, and then my other question, bringing in this many houses, I'm sure that they'll have to bring in, Excelsior EMC will have to bring in new power lines. Will those be above ground, below ground? Will my power lines be rerouted?
We haven't
Okay.
gotten that far.
Okay, all right. All right, I just had some questions about this.
Okay, sir.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, okay. And you know, that's why we wanted to call all the names out, so that you had the opportunity to speak. And so, all right, from the commissioners, any discussion? And hearing none, I will ask for a motion.
Move to,
approve, Mr. Chairman.
second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
Mr. Mosley, so unanimous approval. That will actually end those discussions, or those zoning matters, and we certainly appreciate y'all staying here and hearing them.
Mr. Chairman, if we can be excused, we thank the commission for all its service and
Yes, sir.
thank you.
I'm going to ask the commissioners, we've been in here for 2 solid hours. Does anyone need a break?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Let's take a 10-minute break. We'll start back. Is 10 minutes long enough?
Yes, sir.
We're going to take a break, 10 minutes. Resolution authorizing acceptance of roads in Ashford subdivision. Approve the purchase of 7 sets of PPE firefighter turnout gear for firefighter recruits from NAFCO in the amount of $24,031. 4 is to approve a payroll deduction agreement for Air Medicare, which is AirVac. And 5 is to approve a solid waste purchase of a grapple truck from Solid Waste Applied Technologies in the amount of $299,000. We can vote on these collectively, or we can move these to new business.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we vote on them collectively.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, show of hands.
Aye.
Unanimous approval. Thank you all very much. At this time, I'll recognize those citizens who've signed up to address the board. Once your name is called, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Make your comments, and all speakers who are recognized will have allotted 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, Timmy Rushing didn't return.
He did not. He had to leave.
Mr. Chairman, it's also being reported that the sound's not coming through on the live stream.
It didn't come through for about 10 seconds, and we'll fix it.
Thank you.
Nick Newkirk.
Good evening. Now, I got some questions. I opened some open dialogue here too. On the consent agenda number 2, the acceptance of the road in Ashford subdivision, that is the subdivision off of Youngblood? Okay. What does that mean? Does that mean that the developer does not do anything else from here on that the county does, or is there like a warranty process, or how does that work?
It would mean that the county takes over maintenance of the roads.
Okay. What is that process?
There is a warranty period
There is a warranty?
for bonding.
What was that?
The bonding requirement.
Under the new order, this was this is an older subdivision that was, but yes, under the new ordinance there is.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
So whatever we take over tonight, we're stuck with it?
Yes.
Okay. What is there any like field sites, there are field visits that we go out there and check on? Because I rode through there today. Curb and gutter's broken, drainage is poor, the inlet boxes are slat full of dirt. How do y'all, is that something that now the taxpayers have to take over doing? Or is that something that should have been done before it got approved tonight?
We put together a punch list that we provide the developer. Once they complete the punch list, they call us, we come back and inspect again. And whenever we get to the end of that process, that's when we accept those.
Okay. So the box is filled up with dirt and broken curb and all that, that's an acceptable measure for Bulloch County?
Some things do happen after we provide the punch list, they go fix it, and we come back and inspect it again. And I think in that one, we've gone through about 3 or 4 iterations. That subdivision, I think, was built originally around 2000, early 2000s. I don't know the exact date, I think it was around 2007.
Okay. Because I just know, I went through today while it was raining and the drainage was poor. The easements that go out for the drainage was all grown up. The water's not draining. And I just think that's something else that the taxpayers shouldn't have to be paying for these subdivisions. And I just didn't know what the process was. So I didn't know if that was an acceptable thing that we approve or if that's something that needs to be subdivision, the developer should be paying for. Because I don't think taxpayers should be paying for brand new subdivisions that we just take over. Quiet, good enough. Y'all have a good night.
Ms. Leisha Neville.
Good evening, Commissioners. When I signed up tonight, I didn't know quite what I was going to speak on. I have a few things that I could speak on. But after all of the things you agreed to tonight, one of the things I haven't said a lot about, well, it's come up several times actually, but as a newly elected board member for the Board of Education, I have to express my concern for one thing, this subdivision you just passed. There's been so much talk previously that the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Education, and I guess the city, I don't have much to do with them because I live in the country, do not work together. It is going to put, now I don't know how long it takes to build an 81 house subdivision. I have no idea. That is going to put a strain on that school, on Neville's. It's putting, well, not only Neville's, some of them could be going to the high school. We've got to do a better job of working through these things, communicating. I realize that this subdivision sits right on the edge of the 45 plan of development where you can develop. But the school can't handle anymore. We've already got $130-something million high school they're wanting to build. I say they because I don't. Wanting to build out there at Southeast Bulloch. And that school's already overcrowded. Our school system itself is in a mess right now. I mean, we're sitting here putting mobile units in, moving mobile units around from place to place. At some point, we've got to talk and we've got to work together. I even volunteered to a couple of y'all to be a liaison to work with the Board of Education. We cannot keep building houses. You're talking about 80, if you just say 80 houses and just figure 4 people, 320 people, and half of them being students, 160. That's a lot of kids going into the schools that aren't ready for them. Now, obviously, I'm not asking you to go back and change your mind. I'm asking you to think before you keep approving more subdivisions. It doesn't always matter if it's in that little green or yellow or whatever, I don't know what color it is right now, spot. We need to look at everything else. These people that we're talking about, I mean, I know they're gone, but the people that were talking about how long it takes to get fire, ambulance, all of this, I'm in this area, but not on that side, thank God. I live on the 301 side, okay? I had to call the ambulance for my daughter one time. Do you know what we did? We had to drive and meet them where the Parkers is at Langston Chapel now. They could not get to us fast enough. You're taxing our services. We need to be prepared. We have to have the infrastructure for all of these subdivisions. We can't just keep approving because somebody wants to build something and they want to sell their land and things like that. We've really got to look at the bigger picture here. We've got to see whether we can handle it. And I don't know, maybe y'all gonna put some substations down there or something like that, but it is a serious concern. And I can relate to that. I've had to call the sheriff out before, because like I call sheriff on night hunters and stuff like this. So I call people out when anybody's doing anything out on the properties. And it takes them a long time to get there. And they're on the complete other side of Statesboro, the sheriff's department. So I'm just asking you to think about these things. Think about the schools. They're already overcrowded. Think about the strain you're putting on our services for them to be able to get to help people. And let's just not just draw this line and says, okay, it's in this spot, we can build. But let's kind of communicate a little more and talk to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into our staff comments. Any staff members have anything they'd like to say?
Brad Deal, County Engineer. So I want to give you all a quick update on the Harville Road roundabout project. The road closure that is going to be in place for that is going to begin on July the 8th. And the time period is roughly 90 days that they're going to have a detour in place. So I just want to give you a quick update. And I guess just real briefly, for the questions on Ashford subdivision, when I started working with the county about 7 years ago, roughly. I think that's when the process started where the developer was applying to have the county accept the roads. So we've been gone through, I guess, multiple punch lists with him, had him repair things. So he'll repair some things and we'll go back out, do another list. There's new things to get repaired. So we've kind of gone round and round to the point where we've talked about some other subdivisions where they were built many years ago and there was kind of an expectation for the county at some point to take over the roads. So we try to get them into the, I guess, a condition where we think we can take them over. So there are a few, I would say, small things in there that, where it's maybe not like a new subdivision per se, but it was built roughly 15 years ago. So, but if you have any questions on it, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Any other staff members? Commissioners, any comments?
I'd like to thank everybody, all the commissioners, and a lot of people in the county. I know y'all have heard this speech from me not just too long ago, but we have had over passing of my granddaddy and my sister-in-law's daddy. Like I said again, I do appreciate and I love this, love being here, and I love the people in this county because there's a lot of phone calls made over the last week, and matter of fact, I had a lot of texts too, and I didn't get to reply to every one of them, but it's truly appreciated. I thank the world of you, and you know who you are, and a lot of you have come and seen me in the meetings here, so, you know, some of you's in the room tonight, but my family really does appreciate it, and thank y'all for that.
Anyone else? Then I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 5014-3B2 and other applicable laws pursuant to the advice of County Attorney Jeff Akins for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion, second. All those in favor, show of hands. Thank you. And we thank you for coming tonight, but we are now in executive session.